Good morning. Welcome to this press conference. The Secretary General will make. Thank you. Secretary General will make some opening remarks, and then we will take some questions. Sir, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to see you this morning. Usually, we gather at this time around of the year, but now we meet at the end of my term. Believe it or not, I'll miss these exchanges. We have spent much time together in this room, in the halls of this building, and around the world over the last 10 years. You are part of the United Nations family, and I thank you for your strong commitment and working together and working for the United Nations. More than that, you have an important job to do, informing the world about our work, when we make progress and when we fall short. I deeply believe in your mission. I've been saying that you are connecting the world, connector between the United Nations and the world's people. And at a time when governments across the world are harassing journalists and cracking down on press freedom, I have worked hard to be your ally and defender. The fight for freedom of the press is everybody's fight. I'll be brief today to allow maximum time for questions. Let me make just 3 points. First, the carnage in Syria remains a gaping hole in the global conscience. Aleppo is now a synonym for hell. As I told the Security Council 3 days ago, we have collectively failed the people of Syria. Peace will only prevail when it is accompanied by compassion, justice, and accountability for the abominable crimes we have seen. Second, I'm closely following the deteriorating situation in South Sudan. This week marks the 3rd anniversary of the fighting. The country's leaders have betrayed their people's trust and squandered our peace agreement. Tens of thousands lie dead. Most immediately, my special advisor, Mr. Adama Dieng, has warned of the risk of genocide. We continue to push for access for life-saving relief, and I urge the Security Council to take more concerted action, including through punitive measures. Third, we will continue to support the global momentum behind the Paris Agreement on climate change. Climate action means jobs, growth, cleaner air, and better health. Leaders from across the globe and on every front understand this, from Fortune 500 CEOs to governors and mayors. The Paris Agreement on climate change is a precious achievement that we must support and nurture. There is no turning back. Ladies and gentlemen, I will undertake one last trip during my final days in office to speak at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale and to visit Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum in Springfield. One can draw a straight line from the principles that President Lincoln defended to those that represent the best spirit of the United States and that animate the United Nations. Lincoln was a heroic force for equality, integration, and reconciliation, and desperately we need that spirit today. This has been a decade of unceasing test, but I have also seen collective action change millions of lives for the better. Difficult as it may sometimes be, international cooperation remains the path to a more peaceful and prosperous world. I will continue to spare no effort to appeal to world leaders, long-standing or duly minted, to recognize and embrace that preeminent 21st century fact. Finally, I wish to express my appreciation to our host country and host city. Yesterday in Washington, D.C., I thanked President Obama, Vice President Biden, and National Security Advisor Rice for their strong support over the years. We all stressed the centrality of close, productive ties between the United States and the United Nations. I have also recently met with the Mayor de Blasio of New York and Governor Christie of New Jersey, and will speak soon to Governor Cuomo of New York. The United Nations continues to draw strength from its home here in the New York metropolitan area. Thank you again for your friendship over the past decades, and I wish you continued good success and work and engage more closely with the United Nations so that you will always deliver and connect the world with the United Nations. And thank you very much. And now let me say one last thing. I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Gianpaolo.
Mr. Secretary General, on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association, thank you again for the last press conference, but thank you also for your cooperation and friendship of this decade with us. We really appreciate that. And also thank you for your battle for freedom of the press. My last question to you is a simple one. My colleague will ask tough question. I have a soft one. In 2 weeks, you will face two options: relax and retire, or run for president of South Korea. Because this is your last question, and we would like to know which one of these options you will choose, and you have to give us a real clear answer now. Thank you.
The part of your question, of course, I'll take some more days to take rest. As you know, during the last 10 years, frankly speaking, I have not been able to take any properly vacations and rest. It's been quite tough, 10 years. But I have been working just to make sure that the United Nations is there when people need me and the United Nations. For second part of question, I have been repeatedly saying that I am still the Secretary General. I still have 15 days to go. So let us see after 15 days, when January 1st comes, then, as I said, I'll take some rest, and then I'll go back to Korea. Then I'll try to meet as many people as possible, which may include political leaders and leaders of the community societies and my friends, and will really consider seriously how best and what I should and I could do for my country, Korea. As you know, the situation is very, very difficult, in a sense, in turmoil. I can understand and share the anxiety of people about the future of their country, and this is one of the biggest challenges the Korean people are encountering. I know that they don't want to lose the hard-earned democracy and the economic development, which in fact transformed Korea from a recipient country to a global donor. That is one of the pride the Korean people have. Koreans have been known as an example to other nations in that regard. And I also understand the aspiration of people for a new type of inclusive leadership that can help them overcome the challenges ahead. And there are many issues of how to reconcile the differences between their thinkings and differences of their incomes between and some regionalism. There are many, many issues which we have to think about. That means social integration and reconciliation and much more matured democratic institutions. At the same time, while all these seem to present great challenges for Koreans and Korean government, I'm confident that the Korean people, with their resilience and very matured democratic institutions, I'm sure that they will be able to overcome these difficulties soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Edie?
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. You mentioned Aleppo. I wondered if you could elaborate a little and tell us what your expectations are, since there seems to be some holdup in the evacuations today, and whether the UN has been involved in trying to promote this. But that was a follow-up. My real question was, you've talked about unfinished business, and you've mentioned Syria, and today you've mentioned South Sudan. What other unfinished business do you think should be at the top of the agenda of your successor, Mr. Guterres?
About this situation in Aleppo and the situation in Syria broadly, this has been really heartbreaking for me and for all the people who love peace and stability. And Syrian people have been really suffering too much, too long during the last 5 years. It will soon meet the 6th year, March next year. More specifically about the situation in Aleppo, in an operation that started yesterday and continued into the early morning today, local time, thousands of people were able to leave Aleppo, including 194 patients who were evacuated with assistance of the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, ICRC, International Committee of Red Cross, and the United Nations. They were brought to hospitals in Idlib and western rural Aleppo and Turkey. They were brought to hospitals nearby with the support of humanitarian health partners in Gaziantep. The evacuation of wounded and civilians from the besieged areas of eastern Aleppo was unfortunately has been suspended today because of the Syrian authorities of earlier today. I feel very much regret that we had to stop this operation at this time. The United Nations is currently engaging and mobilizing all possible resources and manpower, engaging with and urging the parties to take all necessary measures to allow safe resumption of this evacuation process. The UN and partner in Idlib have pre-positioned the supplies, which we can easily deliver to needy people. And again, I can tell you that United Nations stands ready full-time to do whatever is needed to rescue as many people as possible. But as I told you, unfortunately, because of this fighting by Syrian armed groups, we have to stop this one. Thank you. About this unfinished business, That's hard to pinpoint. There are many issues, unfortunately. All the tendency is that once violence and conflict happen, they do not know the end. It seems that the Syrian crisis has been continuing 6 years now. The situation in Yemen and South Sudan and Central African Republic and Mali and elsewhere, all the fires are still burning. There is a clearly lack of solidarity, global solidarity. There are many people who believe that military solution can address all these issues. But as I have been repeatedly saying that there is no such military means, military solution, only inclusive political solution can bring a sustainable solution of the issues. I feel sorry that I have to leave so many unfulfilled issues to my successor and member states. But at the end of our day, we have to also understand that we need to do much more with the global solidarity and the compassionate leadership. That's what I'm urging the leaders to engage much more. Thank you.
Mr. Sato, NHK.
Thank you for giving me a chance to ask the Secretary General. My name is Sato from NHK. My question is about Northeast Asian situation, because the Secretary General is the first Secretary General from East Asia and also the diplomat of South Korea. And looking back at these 10 years, DPRK has been pursuing the nuclear ambition, and China has dramatically enhanced its power in international area. And South Korea and Japan, the relation has been ups and down, and that's still not stable. So what is your view on Northeast Asian situation during your tenure, and prospect and expectation for the future shape of this region? Thank you.
People often have been saying that the 21st century would be an era of Asia-Pacific. And among Asia-Pacific, Northeast Asia has been regarded as power of growth and dynamic growth economically, particularly, and socially. That means China, Japan, Korea, and these are very important drivers and have been commended, even envied by many people around the world, many countries around the world, for their dynamic growth. Recently, I'm concerned that the relationship among and between the countries in Northeast Asia and also Asia broadly have not been smooth. But in all this, there is a very serious security concerns caused by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, particularly their continuing efforts to develop nuclear weapons and ballistic missile technologies. The Security Council has been seriously engaged to deter this kind of North Korean activities. The Security Council has met 10 times this year only. It's very rare that the Security Council engages so frequently, so heavily on any single subject. They have taken already 5 sanction resolutions, including most recently which was taken on November 30th. All these kind of tensions on the Korean Peninsula also caused a lot of implications to the Northeast Asian region, and there has been some differences of opinions and positions how to address all these security issues, particularly vis-a-vis North Korean nuclear issues, between and among China, Japan, and Korea, and the United States and Russia. All these countries surrounding the Northeast Asia have not been consistent in their positions. I sincerely hope that with all these continuing security instabilities and the political disharmonies among these countries, the leaders of Northeast Asia will continue to meet together and try to narrow down their differences of opinions, and particularly in addressing North Korean nuclear issues. I sincerely wish and strongly urge again the DPRK authorities to come to international community and abide by all these international norms, including the Security Council resolutions, many resolutions. Therefore, they can also be part of this society. That's what I sincerely hope as Secretary General. Yeah.
Joe Klein.
Thank you. Joseph Klein of Canada Free Press. And Mr. Secretary General, whatever you decide to do, I wish you all of the best. Given the prominence in the news lately of cyber attacks against political institutions and private enterprises, what concrete steps would you recommend that the United Nations take to galvanize member state support for an effective UN convention containing rules and norms to regulate cyber warfare, akin to the Geneva Conventions, for example, and help build member states' capacities to secure their critical infrastructures from cyber attacks? Thank you.
We are enjoying all this dramatic, transformative development of technologies, particularly this communication technologies. At the same time, we are very much concerned about this using this technology for other negative purposes, cyber attacks. This must be prevented in the concerted efforts by the international community. I sincerely hope that the United Nations concerned department and agencies will look into this matter very seriously and try to have international conventions so that we can prevent such kind of misuse of privileges of technology, cyber technologies. This is my sincere hope. But as for the specific agency or department, I think we will have to discuss this matter with the General Assembly. Yeah.
Linda Fasulo.
Thank you, Steph. Mr. Secretary General, this is a question going back to Aleppo. You've called Aleppo a synonym for hell. We also know that South Sudan, you've said, is at the risk of genocide, and there are UN troops there. I was just wondering how you would assess the status of the concept of responsibility to protect. Is it on life support? Is it moving towards death?
In 2005, during a special summit meeting, world leaders have agreed and adopted a consensus document on responsibility to protect. As a Secretary General, even while I was campaigning, I've been pledging to the member states that I will try to translate this agreement into action and application to our daily life in addressing all these issues. Unfortunately, member states have shown some stepping back from their firm agreement on responsibility to protect. That is why the United Nations international community has not been able to fully and effectively address many conflict issues. Particularly, we fully support the sovereignty issues. Every country, small and big, has a sovereign right and sovereign integrity. But when it comes to a situation when the leaders are not willing or not able to defend their own people, then international community should be able to intervene with necessary resources. That has been done at the time of resolving this Libyan crisis. I regret very much that the member states have not been given full support and full engagement in implementing this very important responsibility to protect the principle. Again, this is one of the unfinished business. We have a good framework, we have an agreement, then why we are not using these good tools? These tools and principles should fully be used so that we can handle and address many conflict issues. We fully support this sovereignty, but when the country simply is not able or not willing to, then international community has a responsibility to protect those people. Yeah.
Just specifically, is there anything you would recommend for the international community to do at this point regarding Syria?
I have been appointing, I think, 3 world's best diplomats, including my predecessor Kofi Annan, Lakhdar Brahimi, and Stefan de Mistura. It's not an issue of negotiators and facilitators. It's an issue of a lack of solidarity, lack of compassion, and the people just sticking to a very narrow personal or national interest. That has been killing hundreds of thousands of people now. That we have to reject in the name of humanity. How come this issue has been so long taking without being resolved? And first of all, Syrian people, they should be united. Unfortunately, they have been divided completely. The regional powers, these powers, they have been supporting both sides, the government side and the armed group side. The United Nations Security Council has been also divided. Then divisions in 3 important areas and institutions. That has provided a perfect storm for extremists, ISIL, Daesh, terrorists, take a firm root. They're just taking firm root among the people, just taking advantage of all grievances of the people, lack of good governance of the leaders. Yeah.
Thank you. Fethi?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. Just before I start my question, it was a pleasure covering you and the United Nations over the past 5 years in New York and overseas. Reflecting on your tenure as Secretary General of the United Nations for an entire decade, in hindsight, what was your top 3 moments of pride and your top 3 moments of regrets? I understand there were ups and downs, as we have witnessed, but there must be some resonance with you personally. Thank you.
Frankly speaking, it's not good timing for me to talk about what has been achieved or what has been good moment for me. There are more on the regrettable side, frankly speaking again. But since you have raised this issue, I believe that while we think that we are living in an era of turmoil and challenges, the world leaders have shown, at least very important guidelines and visions by adopting Sustainable Development Goals, 2030 Agenda, with the 17 goals, which covers all spectrums of our life for human beings and planet Earth. If we are able to implement and achieve these all 17 goals by 2030, I'm quite confident, and we'll be very proud to saying that we are living in a world much more prosperous, much more peaceful, and much healthier for people and the planet. That's one thing. Then, even though it's a part of these Sustainable Development Goals, the climate change has been negotiated in separate in different track, with the Sustainable Development Goals. The agreement of Paris Agreement, that has to be commended. It has taken longer than 20 years. When I took over as a Secretary General in 2007, the negotiation was almost dormant. It was not moving at all. And I thought that my priority as a Secretary General should be on this climate change. And I have been really mobilizing, first of all, political will of the leaders and business communities. And I have been really asking the civil societies to raise their voices, to challenge the world leaders. Now, with this Paris Agreement, once it was known as unthinkable, now it is unstoppable. Nobody can stop this one. Nobody can stop this one. It's now going on. It's not only the government, now business communities and civil societies, they all demand it. They know that without changing our course, our pattern of consumption and production, without going through a climate-resilient economy, decarbonizing, then our future will be tragic. So that is one thing which I have been able to awaken the awareness of the people's minds. That is one thing which I'm proud, but we will have to go at least 85 years, our target, until 2100. But I think we have stepped a very good start. When we implement this with the force, then we can be proud. Then another one, at least I have, again, tried to change the mentality of male community, male society, that it's not only men. Men should live together equally with women. There's gender empowerment, gender parity. There are more women living in this planet. Then if not the more for women, at least the equal right should be given, politically, socially, and economically. And this is a fundamental principle of Human Rights Declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And as a human being, I think we must adhere to this. I have been trying to appoint as many very capable women senior advisors. And the number of women whom I have appointed during the last 10 years is much, much greater than the number of women appointed during my 7 predecessors combined. And I am glad that my successor, he has committed in his oath-taking ceremony that by the end of his term, I don't know when will be his end of the term, then at least 10 years, then this world will be 50-50. But in fact, by 2030, world leaders have already committed by 2030 this world will be 50-50 planet. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. We have to go. Thank you, sir. No, we have to go. Thank you. We have to go. Sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We have to go. We have to go, sir. Sir. Thank you. I think he's going to say hello.